Hi guys, welcome to the interview with very special guest Jurgen Klinsmann. We're going to transition to a bit of his career with the German national team and the US MNT. Coach, thanks so much for being here. June is going to have the first question.
Yeah, my first question, Jurgen, is in 1997, when you were the captain of the national team in Germany.
Traveling back in time.
You took the team on the tour of the Holocaust Memorial in Jerusalem. I don't know if you recall that. But tell us a little bit about the background of what that moment meant for you and how much work do we have to root out hate in football in general?
Well, I always saw kind of traveling in the football world as an opportunity to see different things, to connect obviously different places and try to understand different approaches in life. And with the German, obviously, history that we had after World War II and growing up, in West Germany then, and my father came from East Germany and he went through all these kind of post-World War II sections of the German history. I felt always that it's important, not to forget what happened. And when we got the opportunity to visit Yad Vashem in Israel and playing a friendly in Israel, and I was the captain then of the team. Those are moments that you really you don't forget those, because it makes you feel responsible for the past, even if you had nothing to do with the past, obviously, But it teaches you just that there are far more important things really in life than playing football in that moment, even if that's all that occupies your brain. And so I had these moments as a player that I could see these places. I met Nelson Mandela once in South Africa at a friendly game. I was allowed to introduce the team to him, and these kind of little moments, they kind of, you carry them with you, cherish them, And later on, as a coach, when I had the opportunity to maybe give the players a different picture on a certain thing, or visit a certain place in a particular city, then I would always offer that. I wanted always to see them, whatever, the Freedom Tower in New York, with the US team, or in Philadelphia, the stairs where, Rocky Balboa ran up. And so, these kind of cool places, or when the team came to California, I made sure that we go to the beach and we see the surfers, because that's California. And so there are all these places around the world that, football opens you the doors, gives you the opportunity to travel there, and then just dive in and, kind of enjoy it.
As head coach, I think you try really hard to meld these unique experiences that enrich their lives, right? And I think as a player who played for West Germany, then Unified Germany, and then coaching the Unified Germany team, and we look at that and say, oh, Germany and Korea were maybe the two only countries that had been temporarily separated, and then you guys have unified, but obviously in Korea there is a hope that one day we'll be able to do the same in our lifetimes. When you were going through that as a player and a coach and as a person, what was that unification process like? How did it impact you as a player and a person? Any lessons that we can take moving forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that looking at the German story, the key word that comes out is really believe that it can happen still. And as difficult as it right now looks between South and North Korea, but it still can happen. So I think you should never give up the belief. I mean, with East Germany and West Germany, it all started with Gorbachev very slowly. Then it started in East Europe, some movements at embassies, and suddenly, things got into in a movement that nobody would have expected, and then it happened.
It's a process.
So it's a process, I mean, for us, it was a very emotional process, because my family, boom, back together, things. The soccer fans, the football fans got emotional because, whoa, we can go to Italy and support, the team down there. Even if East Germany played also qualifiers for the tournament in Italy. And unfortunately, they didn't make it, And then it created so much energy in the country and also within the team environment that we felt like we gotta win this thing now, and we have good enough players to do so. and that's when football collides with society, with special moments of a specific country, and it's pretty cool.
Right. And Coach, I want to fast forward a little bit to 2004, Das Reboot, for the kind of revitalization of German soccer. I would say that you are the man who basically started the process, even though obviously Jogi Löw finished it for you. When you first got the call from the DFB, can I ask you two parts? Why did you realize Jogi Löw was the man to be your right-hand man? And what was the first thing you realized you had to change within that national team? Because they had crashed out of Euro 2000, Euro 2004, and it was an embarrassment after the success you had as a player. So I'm just curious, when you first got there, what was the mindset you had picking Löw, and what did you change in that locker room?
Well, the mindset, and maybe it has a little bit of an American approach to it, because I lived in, at that time, 6 years already here. The mindset was, I cannot do it the same way as they've done it before, because what should change, you know? So I have to do it differently. Knowing that I have to do it differently, I knew I'm gonna hit a lot of walls. Mm-hmm. I want to run against a lot of walls, and I will have a lot of arguments with people in general, but it was the only way to go. Yep. You know? And that's what I explained to the federation. I do it only if you let me do it my way. Mm-hmm. And it will be a different way. Mm-hmm. And they bought into it because they had no other option, because 2 other coaches already declined before me. And then when I did my coaching license in the year 2000 with a group of World Cup winners and European Championship winners, there was Joachim Löw in our coaching class as an exception, because he was already working long time as a head coach but never could finish his license. The last 20% of the license he needed to do, and so they threw him into our group, just finish it off. And there was a training session where he had to run a back four line, a practical back four line in a gym basically, or in an indoor arena. And in 30 seconds he explained how everybody has to shift depending where the ball is. So we put the ball in different places and different ways shifted the back four line. And I remember next to me sat Guido Buchwald, who I won the World Cup with in 1990, you know, played in Japan a long time. And I said, Guido, we had about how many coaches in our lives, you know, that never really could break down exactly where to be at what time when the ball is there. And this guy comes here, and in 30 seconds he shows us real quick. Wow. And I said, he's cool. And he comes from my neighborhood. We come from southwest Germany. And I knew him already. And then when they gave, and years later then they gave me that opportunity to say, okay, we're gonna give you carte blanche. You go, build your staff. I called him up and I said, you know, and he was actually still under contract of Austria Vienna, a club team in Austria. Right. And he had to basically cut in line with that club. And and I told him from the beginning, listen, this is not a head coach, assistant coach job. Yeah. This is, we do that together. Right. Because you have far more experience as a head coach than I have. Right. I have maybe my ideas and my approaches, and I can argue when it needs to be done. But we're gonna kind of support each other. You have your strengths, I have my strengths, and so I built a team of people that are specialized in what they're doing. And went from there. So
speaking of tough decisions that you made, when I was 6 years old, I fell in love with the German national team in Bayern Munich because I saw Oliver Kahn at the 2002 World Cup basically drag the country to the final. Yeah. And when I saw the decision that you made to drop him for Jens Lehmann at the time, I know you received a lot of scrutiny, but looking back, it was completely justified, I think. Could you explain maybe, was it more of a tactical decision, or do you think it was also an issue of leadership, or you just wanted a new face in goal? Because I think at the time many people gave you flack, but looking back, you made the absolutely correct decision to put Jens in net, especially in that penalty shootout against Argentina.
Well, that discussion went back and forth with everybody. You know, the media, the coaches, obviously the clubs, you know, where both played and stuff. We saw in Jens Lehmann a kind of a goalkeeper that represents a bit the new era of goalkeepers. Very good on the ball, building a high line, pushing up, standing outside the 18-yard box, being gifted to clean up things. And then there's the more traditional approach of Oliver, one of the best goalkeepers in the world, world goalkeeper 2002 in Japan, Korea. And we knew, you know, we weighed both out and we always ended up with 50-50. But then obviously 3 months prior to 2 months prior to the World Cup, we had to make a decision to calm things down because Bayern Munich put pressure on us, and the goalies also. Both goalies wanted to know. Right, they wanted to know what's going on. So we had a long discussion. I mean, mainly, obviously, with our goalkeeper coach Andreas Köpke, and then we made a decision to give Jens a shot. You know, and to communicate it also clearly to Oliver. But it was always, and I'm kind of repeated that probably in every press conference, that we have a 50-50 situation. We admire both keepers, and we just now make the decision to give Jens the number 1 spot for the tournament. If anything happens in the tournament, we have one of the best goalkeepers in the world jumping in with Oliver. And the fear was basically that hopefully Oliver is not taking it too negatively and throws in the towel. Right. And he was top class. He said, you know what, it's your decision, I respect it. If my chance comes, I'm there, I will help you. And we go towards the tournament. And that professionalism of Oliver Kahn, I will thank him forever for that. It was really top class.
Great. So I guess last question about Germany before we move on to the USMNT. Now that the German team seems to kind of be rebuilt under Julian Nagelsmann, had a decent home Euro, I guess obviously you're a fan of the USMNT as well, but how excited are you to see what Julian's going to do, especially considering that he's a young coach and the players he's bringing in like Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala? I think Jamal kind of represents the new Germany, a more diverse country with different perspectives, because Jamal, I obviously grew up in England in the Chelsea Academy. So as a German yourself and a legend, what do you think of the process that's been on in this national team and the new players? Do any of them remind you of you when you were younger, or are you just excited to see a new crop of attacking talent appear?
Yeah, I think you just reached a completely new level of integration of players with different backgrounds influencing a national team program. Like my time, you know, I had Gerald Asamoah, or I had Oliver Neville. So we had players also coming from already new backgrounds, not German backgrounds. And now it got to another level of players. You know, you had a wave of Turkish German kids coming in and putting their stamp on the national team. And now with the new wave of young players, it's just exciting. You know, what Germany went through the last 6-8 years is a bit typical German, because after winning a World Cup, you know, they thought that they can beat now everybody in the world easily. So they get knocked out the next World Cup and the next World Cup. So they have a lot of learning experiences again, you know, getting enough knocks on the head and reboot then the program. And that's what happens now under Julian Nagelsmann. Julian reboots now with his ideas, with his young way of doing things. He's a good communicator. He can laugh, he's outgoing, he speaks their language, he probably is better on the cell phone than the older generation of coaches and stuff like that, which is all necessary to give them now the belief of doing big things, you know. And they were almost there already in the European Championship. They lost against Spain in an unlucky way.
That was a handball. That was a penalty.
Yeah.
That was a penalty.
But okay, but it's a fantastic learning experience, and now he can go towards the World Cup, probably being among the top 8 teams mentioned for that World Cup, with two really exciting young kids with Florian Wirtz and Musiala, which is just, for all the Germans, it's just so much fun. You know, to have these two kids just going at people, and you know, it's like, you know, Kangin Lees of the world, and that's what you want to see. That's what you want to have, and obviously, you know, the expectations remain the same in the German society. Is Germany goes to the World Cup, so make it to the final.
Do you ever stay in touch with Julian? Does he reach out to you at all? Or
no, I saw him a couple of times before the Euros, and since then not. But I told him, listen, whenever you need anything, and maybe they call before the World Cup happens, then hear that they reach out for where should they go to training camp, where set up. They know they can call anytime.
Yeah, you talk about big ideas, and when a new manager comes in, you know, you're trying to institute new ideas for your team. When you took over the U.S. men's national team job, what would you say your big idea was when you were coming in? What did you discuss with Federation President Sunil Gulati and their team about kind of what your mandate was and what you wanted to achieve with that group?
Well, the main objective was to take them further in a World Cup than they did before. Obviously, they had a wonderful experience 2002 in Japan, Korea with the quarterfinals. And I mean, the goal for a U.S. national team coach is literally to win the Gold Cup, which is here the region. And mostly they share it with Mexico, one time these guys and one time the other guys. But it's more kind of getting them to understand the dynamics of tournaments when it really matters. You know, the problem for America, the US, and also Mexico, the countries here, is that they lack competition. It's a bit similar to Japan, Korea, in East Asia, that you too rarely play the big opponents. You know, that's why I preached and I begged, you know, the federation to get to play South American and European teams as often as it's possible. Like I did beg the Korean Federation to play Japan more often. But then they told me, if you play Japan in a friendly game, you lose your job.
Wrong mentality, right, Coach?
And I said, yeah, so I mean, if you fire me after one loss against Japan, okay, no, but I think it was meant a little bit jokingly, but there's some seriousness behind it. Yeah. But the same was then, you know, we played in Mexico twice or three times a year, and more they believed in beating them. And so when you play Argentina and Brazil, maybe every 2-3 years, you might get a different confidence level of actually hurting them than only every 6 or 8 years you play a team like that. So because building that belief means also you gotta repeat it, what you're doing. And that's the advantage of Brazil and Argentina. They know they can do it anytime. In the Germany, Spain, England, and Italy's of the world, they are so kind of, their confidence level is set so high because of the repeating these games year in, year out. And then they play, all their top players, or pretty much all of them, play in the Champions League in Europe. And they see each other, you know. So when you play against each other in the Champions League, you are now used to that level.
You're exposed to that competition.
Exactly. And when you're exposed to that competition and you get used to it a little bit,
makes you better.
It makes you better, but also makes you more comfortable.
It raises
you know?
the standard.
We played with the US, the Copa America semifinal against Argentina, and I would say 70% of my team never played against Messi, Mascherano, and these guys. And when they warmed up on the other side, and my players looked over to the other side and saw Messi warming up with us, and they were just standing there watching them for a moment. You know, I could tell you that I said to my coaches, I think that's already done that game. You know, because you're not seeing them often enough. You're not playing them often enough. But now you would play them every year, different story. They're not watching them anymore at warm up. You know, I had my first big experience in 1989, I think, against Napoli with Maradona, with Stuttgart. And Maradona did his warm-up based on the song Life is Life, joggling the ball with open shoelaces. And we players were on the other side of the field and looking like that, and pretty much you lost the game already because you admire that guy so much on the other side that it's really difficult now to beat him. But if I would have seen him every couple of months, I know, and that's what happened actually then. I went then after that game to Inter Milan, played him Inter Milan against Napoli almost every couple of months. So Maradona was normal for me. So no exaggerated respect anymore, just taking him as a normal guy, which he was certainly not. But it was normal for me to play those games, and then you start also here and there winning those games.
So those kinds of experiences, I guess, help the US team really perform at really kind of the highest level in Brazil, obviously, where they did really well against the likes of Germany, Ghana, and Portugal in the group of death. So what characteristic about that team would you say you were trying to develop so that they can reach that next level?
To try to develop, to give them the belief that they can actually beat those teams, which they, you know, which is the discussion similar to Korea. If you beat those kind of teams in the group stage, the question is then, why can't you manage it in the knockout phase more often? You know, that is always something that I ask myself. So when we almost beat Ronaldo in Brazil, you know, until last minute, then they equalized, but we went out of the group of death and Ronaldo went home with Portugal. But then you face Belgium with a young De Bruyne and Lukaku, and so you tell them the team, listen, you already proved it now in the groups. do it also in the knockout phase. But something in the brain is not 100% convinced that you can do it in the knockout phase. So you then go home in the round of 16, which then again, for a lot of countries, it's a success, but you wish that it could go more. Yeah, that's what you take with. And I came back from Brazil with the US team and I said, it could have been more, you know, I wanted more, you know. More certainly was than the Copa America when we then reached the Final Four. That was pretty cool.
So, Coach, last two questions, I guess. Towards the end of your time with the USMNT, obviously, you know, you were released from the job in the middle of the campaign, but honestly speaking, do you think it was solely because of the results, or do you think you were too much of a disruptor and you wanted to change things to the point where some people in MLS or US soccer, wherever it was, wanted you gone because they were too uncomfortable with your progressive ideas? Or what was your perspective of how that led to your departure from that campaign?
Well, obviously you ask questions, you know, say, okay, a couple of months ago we reached the Final Four and now, you know, basically after a couple of friendly games or 2 qualifier games, you know, you pull the plug. Sometimes it was the feeling there that I was probably too disruptive for some people, you know, and a lot of people told me afterwards, yeah, there was always the feeling that you try to convince the players going to Europe too much, which I never did. I always told the players, if you have an opportunity to go, I would try it if I were you, without saying you have to. If you decide to, and then I had the same experience with my own son, you know, I said, if you want to play MLS, it's totally cool, you know. But if you want to, or you have to maybe offer from Europe, and you give it a try and see if it goes okay or not, you can always come back, you know. And that was kind of misinterpreted by between certain parties. But then also, you know, a couple of months later, after the decision of US Soccer to let me go, you look back and you say, you know what, you had a fantastic time. Almost 6 years with a federation. You made grow a lot of pieces, not all the pieces. You know, you connected all the youth national teams together, and you know, the under-20s always went in the final 8 of a World Cup, top 8 in the World Cup. That's amazing. And so then you look at it with a little bit of pride too, and you move on.
Yeah, and Coach, I guess you had Christian, I think, for a little bit, right? You weren't there the whole time. But he's taken your advice. He's gone to Italy. He's made himself uncomfortable. He's in Milan, right? And when you see that,
just the wrong team.
Yes, exactly. The wrong colors, right? But Coach, when you see that, I feel like you can't but help have a sense of pride, seeing how much he's grown and how he's really been one of the young U.S. players saying, listen, we have to go to Europe, like Jurgen said. We have to make ourselves uncomfortable. So when you see that, do you still think the progression of U.S. soccer when it comes to our younger players is trending in a positive direction, especially as we head towards a home World Cup?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, it's a very positive development without hurting MLS.
Okay.
You know, I think MLS is an incredible success story as a league.
Sure.
Just now 29 years in place, and look at the soccer-specific stadiums all over, almost 30 teams. The competition got better and better, the coaching got better and better, players from all over the world. Now, obviously now having Messi is a special treat. So you gotta give them lots of compliments. But I think there is also a higher confidence level for the young players now to say, I give it a shot in Europe and follow the Pulisic and the Tyler Adams and the McKinneys of the world over there in order to prove myself. And if it doesn't work out, I come back here. I can play here. And it makes the national team program better, and it makes it stronger, and without it forcing them to go, you know, because there's still MLS players making their way into the national team. It's not a problem, and I think it's a really good example for a lot of other countries to a little bit follow that path.
Great. And last question, a little personal. You know, we obviously know you're a native Californian. Just how personally excited are you to have a World Cup back here? Because you were here for the first one. And do you have any plans for the tournament? You're going to still do broadcast TV? Or would you ever consider a return to international management and coaching at another big World Cup?
I'm super excited for the World Cup in the US, Mexico and Canada. But obviously we're going to have in California, I think 6 games in the SoFi, then up at in San Francisco. It will be a completely different type of a World Cup because of 48 nations.
Compared to Qatar.
Yeah, you know, opposite of Qatar. So I'm really excited. I hope still maybe I can coach a team in that World Cup. You know, so we'll see now what happens the next year with all the different national teams around the world. I'm totally open to things. But if not, you know, I love to do media work as well. You know, and or for FIFA again, guiding the technical study group and analyzing the games. So no matter what World Cup I went to, first obviously as a player, then as a coach, and then doing FIFA or media work, it's for all of us, it's just so exciting because there's so much to talk about, there's so much to argue and debate and different opinions and different ways of looking
Even
at
2
things.
years later.
Yeah. And so we're all gonna witness what the Korean team will do then here in the US.
Call you then.
Yeah, and then we can discuss it up and down without hurting anybody.
Sure. Of course.
Coach, thank you so much. I think the game is better with you in it, and we appreciate your time.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
guys.
Coach, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out to Costa Mesa.